Hi, my name is Curtis Everett, and I'm doing this vlog for fantasy filmmaking. I love to make movies, and this time I'm going to be talking about what I would do if there was a Bond 24. I don't know what Sam Mendes is going to do since he finally decided to direct it, but one thing I'll tell you about this is I love James Bond, so I'll have a heck of a lot more to say about this than probably any other movie that I'll ever vlog about. But if I were to make another James Bond movie, this is what I would call it. Why would I call it Risico? Is because that is the only James Bond title that hasn't been used for the films yet that Ian Fleming originally came up with that still sounds cool. All the other titles from Dr. No, all the way down to The Living Daylights, those were all Ian Fleming titles in some variation, and even GoldenEye, that's the name of Ian Fleming's house. But Risico is the one title that the producers haven't used yet, and it's so cool. I never thought they would ever name a movie Quantum of Solace. I even made some fan films a couple years ago, and the first one I made was called Quantum of Solace. The second one I made was called Risico, and I said to myself they would never ever make a movie called Quantum of Solace, and look what happened in 2008. Anyway, what would I do for this next James Bond movie? Well, I would love if Daniel Craig came back to play James Bond. He's my favorite Bond. I just think he's everything that Sean Connery was, but he brings an emotional level to the character that a lot of the other actors, Roger Moore, didn't really bring to the character. So I would definitely go with Daniel Craig again. I've heard some rumors that Penelope Cruz might be the Bond girl, and I think that's a great idea. Her husband's Javier Bardem. He did so wonderful in Skyfall, and so I think it'd be a great idea to have her as the Bond girl. As for the Bond villain, I would want somebody who competes on the same level as Bond. A lot of the villains are either a lot of the Craig villains have been very intellectual. Mads Mikkelsen, he was very kind of a seedy character, but he wasn't necessarily a physical brute. And then for Quantum of Solace, Matthew Almeric, he was an intellectual villain as well, not really very physical. Javier Bardem was probably the closest thing for a adversary that Bond has had, a worthy adversary, I should say. But for this next Bond film, Bond 24, Risico, I would want somebody who just, brings a new level of, I'm thinking somebody along the lines of, Tom Hardy, or hypothetically, I'm directing this, but I'm hoping with Sam Mendes directing, he could get Kevin Spacey to play a role, since they work so beautifully together for American Beauty. Who would I want the villain to be? Well, if you go back and read some of the old Bond tales, there's still some villains that haven't been used. A lot of the movies that got adapted from the books, they have the same villains in them, but there was some villains, like if you go back and read the Spy Who Loved Me story, those villains I don't think were ever turned into actual film characters. So Slugsy Morant, that's one of their names, and so I think I would want Kevin Spacey to play him, and then I would want Penelope to be the Bond girl. What should the plot be? I think the plot should be basically Bond is feeling out of touch, because of a bad assignment. Maybe another 00 got killed at the beginning, and it doesn't really show that. And so what happens is at the beginning of the movie, you have this scene where it's a Bond opener without Bond, and there's all these different agents going into this building, and they're looking around for this bad guy. And so they get into the building, and there's a phone there, and so they pick up the phone, and it's Morant, and he says, "You walked right into my trap." And then the whole thing blows up, and that's the start of the movie, and it goes into the opening credits. And then everybody's trying to find Bond. You bring back Felix Leiter because he's a classic Bond character, and he's sent out into the field to find Bond. Where is Bond? He's on the Ross Barnett Reservoir fishing and just relaxing. And so he's out there, and Felix goes and talks to him. Bond doesn't want anything to do with him. And so Bond's living in the safe house out in the middle of nowhere. But the thing is, he's fishing on his boat. And so when he comes back from his boat, he goes to the bathroom, and he's just, relaxing, getting some of the fish water off his hands and everything, splashing his face, and then walks an assassin. There's this great fight in the bathroom, and then Bond realizes he can't hide from who he really is, and so he has to go back to his hideaway. And when he gets there, he gets the suit back on, he gets the car back out, And I was thinking, I know this would be severely untraditional for a Bond movie, but whenever I designed this scene in my head, I was thinking to myself, hey, Back in Black would be a great song to put here. It just would be really cool to have Bond suiting up to Back in Black. Listen to the song, tell me I'm wrong. But anyway, so after Bond gets suited up, he has to get back on his mission. So he takes the train down to New Orleans, and so his adventure is in New Orleans and in Louisiana. I just think that'd be an interesting landscape. Bond's been there before. He went there and Live and Let Die. It was kind of a small part of the movie though, and I just think the Southern style would be a cool way to go about it. So when Bond gets down there, he has to find an inn for Morant, and the thing about Morant is he loves to do these drag races along the beachfront in these Baja racers, and so what Bond has to do is he has to impersonate one of the racers who is a criminal, and so he tracks this guy down, knocks him out, steals his gear, steals his stuff. Bond's done unsavory things before, and so he races along the beachfront, and as he does, they actually, for each of the drivers, they put a reporter in with them, or like a videographer in with them, so he meets this younger character. When I originally wrote this idea back in, I think, '08 or something like that, I was thinking maybe Shia LaBeouf, but he's kind of gotten older, so this would be somebody else, somebody different, maybe like Logan Lerman or somebody, who's videographing Bond as they drive along. And so they drive down the beach, and as they're driving down the beach, there's this huge... See, the thing about the action scene is it would be a product of the story, and it wouldn't just feel unnatural as a chase scene. And so there's this scene in which Bond is maneuvering down the beach. It's this great Baja race, but the villain, Morant, who's racing, he has rigged some of the trees, and stuff to their power lines to explode. And so as they're driving down, stuff is just falling in their way. Bond's having to swerve out of the way. And so eventually Bond wins the race, and he wins the respect of Morant. And so Morant seeks an audience with him, and so they talk for a little while. He's involved in the casino business, and so he has his own casino. And so Bond sends Felix there for some stuff. And also Bond is where he's staying is his base is out in this barn out in the country, and there he keeps the Aston Martin, and there's Q out there, and so that's where his headquarters is when he's doing this mission. And so eventually Morant sends all of his guys to the barn. The thing is, Q has booby-trapped the barn to where, it protects itself, but eventually the bad guys figure, hey, let's burn this thing down. And so after a couple guys fall off the roof because of the tiles or fall into spike pits or whatever, they say, let's burn the place, Molotov it. And then Bond has to drive the Aston Martin out the front of the barn, like from the top deck, flies over everybody, gets in a brief car chase, oil slicks him, and then has to put Q on the train because Q's not safe. And then eventually, the Bond girl, by the way, was introduced, I forgot to mention, like back in when he's subduing the guy who's the racer, and she kind of knows something's up, and he keeps running into her. And there's not just one Bond girl, but there'd be another woman maybe there who she's feeling lonely and she's in need of a relationship, but even though Bond appreciates beautiful women, he realizes that she's kind of, damaged goods in New Orleans for the wrong reasons. So he doesn't want to associate with her. Bond eventually takes the offensive to Morant, who has the woman, and Morant is in this riverboat. And so the finale takes place on a riverboat. The thing I would want to see for the end shootout is Bond in a casino in a shootout with a shotgun and a bunch of thugs, and I just want to see slot machines exploding with coins. That would be great. Anyway, so Morant bails out, and he's getting away in a boat, so Bond gets on the Aston Martin. It's parked not far away from the casino, beats up a couple of guys around it, and then he gets in the Aston Martin, and he has to get the girl back, and so he's driving along on this causeway, and the girl's in the boat, and he's in the car. And so he tells the girl to, there's one of those parasail things. And so he tells her to put that on, or he's telling her, get out of there. And so she puts the parasail on, pulls the chute, she gets pulled off the boat. And Bond, he drives his Aston Martin up through the railing, and here's Morant's boat, and he crashes the car into the boat and hits the ejector seat before it hits. And so the thing is, he's coming down in a parachute, the girl's coming down in a parachute, the bad guy's blown up. Make sure we use Kevin Spacey right, though. And so, it just ends, and Bond's caused destruction. Q hates him, but anyway, I really wish they'd name the next Bond movie this. I heard that some of the talk is that they might adapt it from this Bond book called Devil May Care. The only problem with that is Devil May Care, that sounds like Devil May Cry, but whatever. I trust Sam Mendes. I think he'll make an entertaining Bond 24, even if it's called Devil May Care. Hope he gets Kevin Spacey. Hope he gets Penelope Cruz. But I'm just glad to see another Bond movie. I know it's going to be a while before I get to see it, but I'm really looking forward to it. I just hope someday I can execute my idea I just pitched to you into a movie. But the chances of me getting a budget that large are quite slim. But anyway, hope you've enjoyed it, and I love James Bond.